Hi guys, today we will be exploring how to make a track, a hypnotic track, with these three essential techniques in music production. So let's first look at what hypnosis means. So as Wikipedia says, it's the induction of the state of consciousness in which a person apparently loses the power of voluntary action and is highly responsive to suggestion or direction. It's used in therapy, typically to recover suppressed memories or to allow modification of behavior. Has been revived, but it's still controversial. Anyways, so we want to induce like a hypnotic kind of sleepy state. As you can see, hypnosis, the word comes from hypnos, which comes from Greek, which means like a sleep. So it's like a sleepy kind of state that we enter when we fall asleep. It's like our brain waves turn into different frequency, and the same is with hypnosis. So we want something that would induce kind of this sleepiness state, but we are making electronic music, dance music, so we don't want people to fall asleep listening to our track because it's boring. We need repetitions and we need movement. So I will show you today three techniques that will install the movement to the repetitive sequences. So I got a repetitive something like this. So this is my sequence. It already has some movement and it's based on this LFO that it's just operator with two operators, a noise, and third operator. Pretty basic stuff. I'm using this algorithm so everything goes in parallel. So yeah, I can add a bit of this noise, which is nice in my opinion. So this is super basic, and I have a bit of shakers. There's an effect that comes in every fourth bar, bass line and kick. Yeah, so we got the groove, and if we just play this over like few times, it will become boring. So what we need is movement, modulation, variation and modulation. First, let's look at variation. Easy way to add variations is just to make changes in the notes. So we can just draw in some note that will add us some variation. So yeah, so we got variation in the sound, which is super nice, but then sometimes we don't feel like inspired to write melodies, or we don't know how to do them. Like, I'm not a big melody writer, to be honest, but I like to use some tools that are in Ableton that kind of like help to add some variation to the sequences. So as you can hear and you can see, it's just a sequence on E, and I added G, which sounded well. But I've added some MIDI effects that will make this thing more interesting. So first, I'm adding a velocity. So let's look at MIDI effects. MIDI effects are here. Velocity, and I'm using the add some random. So what it does, it adds some random velocity. So whenever a note hits, there is a different velocity, and we got some dynamics. So this already creates movement and changes. Then I've added random, and random works that way that for any incoming note, make this note different based on the chance parameter. So if we have chance by 0, this means that the note, it will still play E, but if we add, we start hearing different notes. And I'm using by algorithm, which adds and subtracts the notes. So 6 choices, and I've added the scale just to lock the notes to all the white keys, all the white notes. So it's a C, but I kind of like a bit modulated the scale because I think like F note didn't sound so well. I didn't want the sequence to go so down as D, and I've raised the C. It's alive. We got some variation. in here. So this is how we can add variation just using random effects. The second technique will be to add LFOs, and I love LFOs, and in Operator we have built-in LFO which can have two destinations, and as you can, it's already working. Like I'm sending this LFO to operator A and operator B, and it's already creating that interesting character. So, but what we can do more to make this even more alive is to add LFO. So LFO is in audio effects, I guess. LFO modulators, LFO, and let's add another LFO and then map this LFO to LFO amount. So I here have a macro, but now it's a bit crazy. I don't want this to be so crazy. I don't want it to work that in that such a big range. So I would use just a tight range and maybe make it even slower. So you see, this will now change and create some rhythmic variation. I can add next LFO and maybe map a rate and change the wave. Maybe too much. Let's change the speed to be a bit lower. And I will add another LFO, and I like to do add those LFOs because it's basically creating a modular inside Ableton. And I will add that LFO to a decay of this third operator, which is noise. Too quick, too much, too short. Yeah. Too much maybe. Too short. Let's make it slower. We could add another bit here, or we can just add this. Let's record it. We can record some automation. We don't have to use LFO for everything, so let's record some automation. Yeah, so whenever you want to add record and automation, you need to press this button. So right now we have automation. Yeah, recorded to this clip. So we already made this sound more alive and modulated. And the third technique would be to add a texture. And I have a few textures here just to show you what effects it will create. So I have this wet techno rack, which I've created based on this tutorial from Morgio, which I highly recommend. Super good channel, very good producer, really nice techniques. So if you dig this kind of sound, which sounds like this, yeah, he will show you how to do it. So first technique, like we have already a loop and we adding some sound that will kind of like fill the spectrum. So we got really percussive sound, ta 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 ta. Everything is short, staccato. To create a contrast, we need something that will be longer. And this is like, and we have this sound. So it works well in my opinion. And then we can add another texture which is based on some sample. Yeah, so it's just a recording of me walking in the forest. Again, I already showed you those recordings. And then I'm adding some, like a bit of bit warmer, autopan, which we can, yeah, which I'm actually not using here. So it's just a bit warmer with a bit of bit repeater to add some rhythm to it, and echo just to make things more stereo and spacey. What we could do even more is, for example, automate this sound. So we have the hi-hat, and at some point the hi-hat could grow. Yeah, so we got pretty dense loop already, modulated loop. I've showed you 3 techniques on creating hypnotic tracks. These were adding MIDI effects like random, like scale, like velocity. Though it was adding LFO and also like modulating different parameters of the sound and adding some textures, different textures. This could be ambiances or textures you create artificially in your DAW. I hope this was helpful. If so, please check out my rapid arrangement mini course, which you can find in the description, or check any other video popping around here. Have a good studio session.